we were just talking about intimacy in modern relationships and all of that, and then we just thought, oh, why not just have the conversation on and invite you all in as well. But if you think about how our world is so filled with distractions and busy schedules, and how easy it is for intimacy and the need for connection, and not even just the need for connection, but like the want for connection within relationships to take a backseat in our life. It's not just that physical closeness when you think about what intimacy is. It's about the emotional connection, but also that mutual understanding. And in our modern relationships, these things have shifted drastically in the last 10-15 years, even in the last since COVID happened. So how do we now navigate these complexities and cultivate intimacy amidst this hustle and bustle of daily life? Because when we think about the complex dynamics of it all, a lot of us are working from home. We're seeing each other all the time, especially if you're both entrepreneurs, or if one person is more in the front of that, and then the other person is sort of managing the other tasks and things like that. So it's then, how do you maintain that connection? How do you cultivate that sense of intimacy? How do you not live past one another? How do you not feel lonely within your relationship? And how do you connect like you did when you started your relationship? So these are the questions that we were sort of asking and going into. But yeah,
I think, just to look at the bigger picture in terms of just how society has changed since the 2000s, everything has just gotten busier.
We just said now, even when we started dating, which was 2012, 2013, that it looks very different to what it looks like now.
Like the amount of data that is brought forward into our vicinity all the time, all this information, all this distraction, all these things that you need to optimize, all of these practices you need to incorporate because you have so many experts stating you must be doing this. You must be doing this for you to be successful. You must be doing this in order to have a happy relationship. You must be doing this to be a good parent. You must be doing this for your heart health. You must be doing this to prevent your cancer by 72.3%. There's just so many of these protocols and practices and habits and things where we are monitoring ourselves and we are continuously being distracted by these things. Not saying that it's not important to look at everything, but it is chipping away at the things that used to be available to us when life was slower.
I mean, yeah, you're connected to all these apps and these habit trackers, and it's basically like an Excel sheet that you can tick off of all the things that you can do, which is, I think that they're very helpful to some degree, but at the end of the day, you're just living your life and doing the things that should feel good to you. And if it stops feeling good to you, and if it stops feeling like it adds to your life, and if you don't feel anything from it, then why are you doing it? And this is the thing, even within the context of navigating a relationship within these modern times, it's like it's become one more thing to do. And so people often arrive in that space with a fatigue because they already have so much to do. And instead of actually seeing your relationship as a sanctuary, as this wow, I love this person. I want to nurture this space, and I just, even though sometimes we disagree or whatever, we're building this, and oh my God, this is my person, or honoring them for who they are. Now it's become a thing of now I must listen to this, and we have to connect. Now I have to listen to this podcast, and now I must go rub their feet, and I need to help with the dishes, because if I don't, because then I'm being accused of weaponized incompetence. And if we don't have sex 4 times a week, then then I'm a failure in the lover department, or if I'm too, like all of these things. And that's so much pressure. It's so much mental chatter.
Because don't forget, if you're not having sex more than like 3 times a week, then your marriage is deemed to fail.
Is it?
Like yesterday.
Yes, sir.
Evidently,
let's
it's
even top it. It's not 3 times a day, guys.
3 times a
3 times
day because there was an expert that did a 5-hour podcast on this and broke down the science.
With very little context as to what your life looks like.
Exactly. So that's the thing. At what point have we decided to give our power away to these individuals which we have trusted, which we've come to trust because of the authority and the brand that they've built up over such a long period of time? I'm not saying that their conversations aren't relevant, and not to say that they don't know a thing or two, but you are also living your own life, and that means that you're able to shift that narrative, and you should be able to direct or redirect when you need to. What you touched on there earlier, in terms of just, when you were explaining a very typical relationship dynamic of like getting things done and the expectations and the ideals, and otherwise you're going to end up with a specific outcome, and there will probably be resentment and disconnect and whatever, builds from there. It's the same thing as you saying, I recognize that my life would be pretty shitty without this person if they weren't in my vicinity, because what is the point of me doing all this? Imagine running a successful business and coming home to a beautiful home that's completely empty. It's just you and your cell phone. That's it. And your so-called friends and your... No wonder why you're addicted to work. No wonder why you are maybe watching porn, or you are taking substances to disconnect even more, because the life that you are living feels very empty. But the thing is, that's not even just for those individuals. That same experience is happening within relationships, and it's a thing of the relationship itself is placed as an afterthought, as an end of day activity. I had to do all the most important things now throughout the day, but at 9 o'clock at night, yes, let's prioritize a little bit of intimacy. Tick that last thing off my box, because of my habit tracker right now I'm at 100%, and I'm going to keep it there.
That sounds horrible.
It does sound horrible. No, it's the same thing as, what is it? Is it Esther?
Esther Perel, yeah.
Esther Perel, when she said, like, if you were to run your relationship like you're running your business and apply the same focus and
your
intention
would
and
fail
attention.
If you ran your business like you did your relationships.
Yeah.
So but this is the thing, it's like, I think people then need to really define for themselves what type of partnership they want. And if they want a partner, if they just want someone to fulfill a specific role within their lives, or if they want someone that they're going to build a life with. And those things are very different.
And as you're saying that, it's in today's modern world, having a partner that is a life partner and then having another person who maybe fills your physical needs is becoming more and more of the norm. So we're not looking for an all-in-one package. We're looking at this is what you specialize in. Oh, you're good in the kitchen and with the kids? Got you. I'll get a partner for that. You're good with this and this?
No, but this is why I'm saying, like, I think then you really need to look at, like, what it is that you value people for. And if it's only because of what they offer you in terms of the roles and the services they provide, then you are looking at transactionary relationships. And my guy, you have a problem. And
sure, but then okay, we're going to go very much off topic. Okay. If we're going to dive further into that.
Okay, cool. We need to come back, but let's go with this call.
We'll make a note on that. If you were interested in that one, drop us a message and we'll continue that conversation. When we were talking before actually having this conversation and recording it, you mentioned just the change and dynamics with, let's say, these dating apps.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, we used to have things with added layers of, like there were filters. So it's like you go in the app and then you have to swipe and then you go on the
Preferences.
date and then you
Yes.
sort of decide. But like now there's literally apps for just sex. That's it. You just go on there, you do your thing, you get out, and that's it. And that's initially what like escorts and that whole world was for. But now people, okay, I know this is this is so controversial because you're essentially choosing those things for yourself, and I'm all for sexual empowerment and all of those things. This is not a topic that I'm touching on here at all. I'm just saying that before there were filters and there were things that you sort of, yeah. Now it's not there anymore. It's really quick. It's really easy. It's like there's OnlyFans. There's all of these things. It's like you don't have to try anymore. The
It's
convenience.
like ordering takeout.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to take out some ass
That's
tonight.
literally it.
That's literally what you're doing. And it's everyone's happy. Everyone's empowered. Everyone gets to meet their primal need. And then you go back to that very lonely, empty space where you are still seeking that connection within inside yourself and wanting to share that space with another human being.
Look at the culture now, even with diet culture. People aren't even dieting anymore because one, there's gastric bypass and there's also Ozempic and all of these other shortcuts to health. Yep. There's all these technologies that are there to freeze your fat or like fat dissolving injections and all of these things. But without you actually putting in the work for it. And I'm not discrediting these things because I do think that they help to a certain degree, but at the end of the day, it doesn't substitute for going to the gym, for eating healthy, for all of these things. And just like you would work on your body and in your business or like something that you are passionate about, your relationship also they also require as much effort and work. Because when we go back to what it means, what intimacy means, so intimacy is that, I'm not going to go into intimacy, that's not...
I was going to say that.
No, I think,
but it is that.
The
person does see into you.
Yes, but it is
and
more...
there's vulnerability.
So I was just going to say it's more like the inner world of the other person and of yourself. So it's
because you're not just sharing chores. Then I would then hire someone to clean my home.
I was going to show you a titty while they're cleaning your home as well.
You do get packages like that nowadays.
You do.
There's a lot of variety, everyone. I feel like I'm being thrown with like options here. It's like, damn.
But I mean, if you think about what it is, it's sharing your innermost thoughts, it's your fears, it's your dreams with someone who accepts you wholeheartedly, and it's feeling safe to be vulnerable, knowing that your partner will support you within that. Like emotional connection forms this cornerstone and this foundation of what intimacy is, and it's that thread that weaves through every single interaction that we have with each other. And it's truly about understanding, but also really enjoying your partner's inner world and wanting to be a part of that and seeing their hopes, fears, joy, and their plans and being like, oh my God, wow. And, so
I think with what you're saying there as well, it's just, the emotional part is really important, but also the communication.
Yeah.
Because most times when speaking to clients or having these conversations, even with, people that we know, it's amazing to notice how you'll have a conversation with one person and over a period of time, the other person or their partner won't know anything that you have said to them.
Because it's such a strange dynamic. Because like I said to you, if someone tells me something, I already tell them, listen, like I'm gonna be talking to Nick. And then as soon as we're done and I'm in the car, the first person I'm talking to is you. So it's because it's not even a thing where it's like, oh, let's gossip or things like that. It's just because, I want you to be a part of my world and I enjoy sharing that with you. So, and also gossip queen, a little bit. But it is what it is. We all have our vices, guys,
It's not gossip if it just stays between us.
No, it's not. It's not. I'm just sharing information. But it's so wild to me that like people don't know what's going on within their partners' lives or
And then it starts there. So you've got the communication gap, which then leads to the emotional gap, because now I can guarantee that there are unmet physical and emotional needs. And when I say physical, yes, maybe that you can look at intimacy and sexual needs, but also just maybe there were things that maybe there were, things on one partner's to-do list that they could have used an extra hand, and that gap has now left an energetic deficit between the two.
What you're talking about is mental load or just
Mental load, physical load,
the load.
emotional load. So now you're not sharing the load. And I love that practice with Brene Brown when she brought up this thing of what she does with her husband is they check in whenever they come together in the day. They check in to see what their level of capacity is, and they do it from on a scale of 10 to 100 in increments of 10. So if they're at 100, they're full capacity, full energy. If they're below 50, then normally they get the other partner picks up a little bit of their load to make that person's life a bit easier.
Like tonight when you asked me where my sense of humor is at, and I said 0. But my sexual desire is at 56.
Yes,
so,
but it's the same principle, and it's a very simple way to communicate. So you could say, where are you emotionally today? I'm at like an 80. Oh wow. Okay, I'm at a 50. Do you need space? Do you want to talk? You know what, talking would be really good, or I just want to sit next to you. So now you're opening up a dialogue for just a very simple practice or thing that you can do, not to drastically change your life, but it will shift something for you and will ensure that there's care and nurturing and nourishing and all these different elements that do constitute a healthy relationship.
Yeah, I think that level of awareness in terms of yourself or the dynamics that are playing about within your relationship also makes it easier to navigate. Because if you're constantly feeling criticized, or that I would lecture you every time we sit down, then why would you open up to me? Why would you bring that vulnerability?
You also anchor in those states. So then you associate that. And I think, to be honest, if we are looking at why this is the case, let's go to 2024 with how a typical relationship looks. You've got two people that are typically working from home.
Yeah, you see each other
all the time. So this person by default ends up in the same position as maybe a co-worker would have been, except you share the entire house, you share life, you share kids. You literally can't escape from each other. But that also means that certain states and experiences are continuously being anchored in. So imagine you've got one partner that has OCD. That's their thing. And you have the habit of leaving a specific cup on a table time and time again.
Oh my God.
Just you can everyone listening to this can picture that.
And wheatgrass out.
Yes, like what I do. I love doing that. And I'm passionate about it.
Okay.
I'm really good at it, okay? And I always do it because for some reason my life is a rush in the morning and I feel like I need to do 10 things at once, and then I leave a couple of things out. And it's not that I won't pack it away. It's just I have man eyes where I can't see things.
Okay, up until the end of the day. Because I will make a point not to put it away because I didn't do it.
But now I'm doing it.
Okay, I see that.
Because I did get scolded.
I didn't scold
No, we
you.
communicated, and she was very authoritative in her communication, so I'm obeying. So you then begin to anchor in a certain set of emotions. Like, oh, fuck, I did this again. And the same thing is like, wow, this person is like not considering what I'm saying. I'm not feeling heard. Like, it's small, but go and do that for 6 months. It is going to affect the dynamic of your relationship. Because that's like a slow puncture in a tire.
What is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again?
Until the whole fucking tire comes off and the rim is cracked and that flies off and then your axle's bent and then you're not moving. The car isn't moving anymore. You think you're going somewhere, but you're not. You're just there. And it's the exact same thing. And intimacy requires that level of care, especially with all of these distractions that are around us. You're getting your dopamine fixes, your serotonin fixes. You've got over-the-counter drugs that you can go and get in any store.
All your
caffeine,
supplements, like
your
all of those
supplements.
things. So it's all of these shortcuts into things. Like you're shortcutting naps and actual rest for caffeine and kratom and all these other things so that you can get done with what you need to get done with. But what you actually need is to rest. And then within the relationships, it's like you substitute. It's like there are no shortcuts to intimacy and connection. Exactly. And it's like, what do we look at what the pillars of these things are? It's like I said, it's the innermost world. It's feeling safe enough to share that innermost world of your thoughts, your fears, your dreams, all of those things with your partner, and them reciprocating that back to you. A fundamental part of intimacy as well is trust, and then vulnerability as well, because those are that's literally all the things that you need to create that sense of intimacy, because intimacy doesn't begin on a physical level. I would go so far as to argue that intimacy on a physical level is the last. I think that lost it's the it's the last stop on the train. It begins with the mind, on a cognitive level. Like, let me be naked with you in my mind and show you my thoughts. Let me see where you sit with that. Then I will be naked with you in my heart. Let me show you how I love and how I want to be loved. And then I will be naked with you with my body. If that makes sense, like if you look at what true intimacy entails. So
I hear that. And when you were saying that, naked with you in my mind and essentially like your world.
I'm not saying like naked. I'm saying without armor, without all of those things. Yeah.
But now the way we are living now is people get to share their nakedness with their phone on the web. And you can sit there and be safe and get the same kicks of serotonin and dopamine and feel connected.
You get the same sense of gratification from porn.
And you can just sit wherever and you can get it. And if it's from porn, you can get it there.
I think about even online, like, you have these communities online and you're sharing and you're doing the reels and you're doing all of these things. And yes, it's important work and all of the things, but yeah, I don't know. If that makes sense, it's like
sure, it's a community and it's
to
amazing.
To a degree, I'm just saying, like, share
it's
yourself.
important.
That's a part of you.
Yes.
That's a vital
part
of
other person's in your home. Like, that's the person, like, that person's part of this whole idea of home, this whole idea of the life that you are sharing. It's not just I'm building a life, I'm also living a life. And to be honest with you, nowadays, I would disagree with the idea of having to communicate initially when wanting to initiate or intimacy, I'd actually say like stepping into co-regulation first, like putting down the distractions, like setting the phone aside from a certain time of night or day, and hugging, and like I think it's like embracing that other person.
Like having a coming home or when like close of day ritual or
Yes,
like a tribute, like
yes.
something. It's like
Start of day
beginning your
ritual,
day, you're ending your
ending,
day.
yes.
It's like
And I'm
how are
starting my
you?
day with you, or
Yeah.
ending my day with you, and we starting our day because we've got to catch up. There's the communication, there's the touch, there's the intimacy. Maybe you're cooking together or listening to music together, and not just sitting and vegetating in front of a television or sharing TikToks on a 4 meter
Yeah, I mean,
couch.
also you can also like. I'm not saying don't watch shitty TV or like together or watch a movie together, but if this has become your norm, where you're watching, where instead of talking to each other, you're watching a documentary together as some form of a connection.
Or one of you is up and the other person goes to bed on their own. And it's happening every single night without fail.
And yeah, so yeah, it's just about those type of patterns, paying attention to that. So when I was, just to preface what I was saying, it's when I'm talking about creating the foundation of like true intimacy, it's like just those are the things that it starts with. And then, but I mean, it doesn't need to be a specific. And I think depending on what your life looks like, it's also going to change. And what our life like looks like right now is, I mean, we work from home, and 2 kids, a third on almost yeah, and it's trying to find ways that we can spend more time with each other that's outside of like work,
Our roles.
but yeah, outside of our roles. And it's like even just connecting to ourselves, it's like there's not enough hours in a day to a degree. And I think, I mean, that would have been the argument, but it's just also looking at the context of your life, because everybody's life is going to be different, and you can listen to whatever guru or things, and there's just things that are not going to make sense in your space. And so I mean, I really implore you to really just bring it in as an invitation and see what it would feel like in your space if you did this or if you didn't do this, or how you would invite this in or not. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's living your life. You're the one that's in your relationship, not Nick and I. We're in our own space and living our own and navigating our own path.
And also to add to that, like, not to say that this is the only path or anything like that. It's a perspective that we are sharing from where we are sitting and living, and from what we have seen and what we've experienced, and the decisions that we've made that has shifted the way in which we relate to each other and connect. Because when you're sitting and scheduling in intimacy, at the end of the day, it loses its spark. Where is the idea of your partner being this conquest? And this goes either way. It doesn't need to be, this is not a masculine, feminine thing. This is really just a sense of desire and excitement, and you want to explore that connection. And it doesn't have to be this thing of it ends with a happy ending. It is also just you want to see inside of that person's internal world. You want to be a part of their experience and hear what they're interested in. And even if you have to listen there for hours, like taking it in, it's not time that is poorly spent. That is, there's so much more than
just the physical gratification of that part of intimacy, you know. And it's so interesting because like a lot of relationship coaches or even the therapists, there's so many people who will talk about like, oh, the power behind scheduling sex and all of these things. And I just I don't believe
You
in
find
it.
it very sexy when someone schedules in.
Oh, Nick, there's nothing that gives me more of an ick when I see, because I mean, we tried that, and then I would see these notifications pop up on like the shared calendar, and it's literally titled Spontaneous Romance, and I'm like, wow, what a contradicting statement. You are
We tried.
scheduling in
To be
spontaneous romance.
honest, I think it happened once on that day. Because I would have it like every second day.
And I'm like,
And I
how am
tried it. I
I?
was like, would this reminder like do anything? And every time I looked at it, I was like, no, it doesn't.
You, as the person doing it, you also feel the ick in it because it's
Yeah,
not natural.
it's a complete ick.
And so it's like when we put these outcomes for like what we think is a successful relationship, and you put physical intimacy as like the top of the thing of like this is the benchmark of like if I'm successful or not within this relationship, and you leave the other things alone, then you are in a very dangerous space because you're leaving a lot of open you're leaving a lot of vulnerabilities in your space. Because I just think, I mean, here's also another example of it where it's like, cool, one partner's had a really tough day, and it's like it's been just crappy clients, then like one after the other, and you just feel really frustrated. But now that notification for spontaneous romance has come up, and it's like, okay, now I need to switch from feeling shitty to go into that
Spontaneous romance mode.
yeah. And then I, on the other side, have been sitting and dealing with tantrums and like trying to, yeah, all of those things. And so equally, like nobody is mentally there or emotionally open enough for that thing. So how I would then on a practical level look at that is like, cool, why don't we just take a second? Let's have a conversation quickly. You can put a time on the conversation for like 10, 15 minutes, but I think everybody just needs to decompress for a second. Okay?
Co-regulate,
There we
decompress, connect,
Then
and then reassess.
once you guys feel mentally lighter and you feel that thing of like, oh, actually, cool, I have now space for the physical connection, and you can start off with like the co-regulation of like, why don't we just give each other a hug for a second? Why don't we just lie next to each other and then see where that leads? And then automatically that might lead to the outcome that you so desired.
Or it'll lead to sleep.
Either way, there's connection, and who knows what the next day does for you, you know? So I just
You
think,
might find yourself in a healthier relationship.
wow, who knew? But I mean, if we look at the hyperconnectivity of this world and this modern lifestyle and the technology, and it's such a double-edged sword because it can enhance and it can hinder that level of intimacy for us. You know, everything is available to you big on the one hand because you can stay in constant communication with people. You can see everything that's going on in the world. But at the same time, it also creates this barrier because it truly distracts you from being present, not just in your life, but in your relationship. You know?
And then you're on you're basically so distracted, you're on autopilot, you're stuck in this idea of this role that you're busy playing.
Because the social media relationship brings with it that sense of comparison and that insecurity because, well, it depends on how you use it, you know, if you, or like what your partner is looking on there and
But
all
nothing
these things.
stops
It's
you
like,
from unfollowing things like that and also muting specific individual stories and posts.
and it's not because I asked you to or whatever
No,
else.
you're
It's just,
protecting your mind.
yeah.
You're blocking people. You're protecting your mind and your space because it's seeds that are causing it's not. Maybe it could be a trigger. Maybe it could be insightful, but a lot of people that post from that space of look at my incredible life over and over again. I'm not just trying to just share. Mm-hmm. I'm doing this whole Instagram thing. That it really does affect individuals at a deep subconscious level. Mm-hmm. And you can't even pinpoint it, but then you end up your gaze has shifted from my partner to, ooh, that looks, shiny object, new shiny object. Yeah. This is the newer model. This, at what point do you then just like put those filters in place to protect yourself, to protect your the space that you're wanting to share with this person, so
Yeah.
you can be present, because that's distraction. It's also taking away presence, not just from them but from yourself, not just from that but from your business,
Yeah.
not just from your business but actual other relationships, other connections, other experiences, because you're always there.
I think, and also it's like what the device is telling you is that you don't have enough money. Two, you are not there's so many ways that you are not enough, and you're not a valid person, and you're always going to be chasing, and
You're not buff enough.
yeah, you're not buff enough.
You're not
You're
big
not-
enough. You're
Your
not
house
skinny
isn't
enough.
big enough. You don't have enough designer items. Your business isn't
You don't have
successful
enough passion. You don't have the right habits.
Oh my gosh, you're not taking enough ice baths, bro. You're not, like, all of that. You're not meditating enough. You're not spiritual enough. All of those things. So,
It's like that. Literally, in social media is designed to tell you that you are not enough, and that means that your relationship is also not going to be enough.
I think it can be a beautiful thing, because there are so many ways that you can educate yourself, and there's another side of that as well, but it's also what you're choosing to tune into and what you're choosing to believe. And also, your outer world is only going to reflect what's happening inside of you and the things that you believe in yourself. And so if this is something that you really enjoy, I love talking about relationship dynamics and all of those things. And I think diving deeper into even just like the patterns and attachment styles and how those things could affect people. We could go into that at a later stage, because this you can go on forever for. But this is just about navigating a modern relationship in the time that we're living in now. And so I'd really love to get to that if we can. But when we look at it, it's not even, I think even just the physical stress component of it also adds to it. Like if we look at it, there's just so much pressure from the external space.
And then you've also got performance anxiety, and that's a factor. And I'm also just want to say this. There's a lot of things that we have not covered in this conversation today, which for context wise, 100%. But just from what we have expressed today, and possibly just sharing the viewpoint, have a look, see how it feels, try it on. If it doesn't resonate, amazing. If there was one thing you could take out of this for yourself and into your relationship that you could try, like checking in, co-regulate through hugging for like 90 seconds. That's it. Like, come in, chest to chest, hug each other, hold each other.
Hugs are great, but there's nothing like kissing. Like just a make-out session a day. I kid you not.
Sure.
Like it does.
But start with that, because if you have been dealing with temper tantrums and wonderful clients and
feeling overtouched and overstimulated
and overwhelmed with yourself and life, and your head is still spinning and looking at numbers, and I still need to do this and that, and start with that.
I just also think we put all these unrealistic expectations on our relationship and on ourselves. I'm not saying that I would expect your partner to be everything and fulfill every like they have to be your friend, they have to be your therapist, they have to do this, they have to, like, that's not a healthy way of relating. But I'm just saying, if your partner has no idea what is happening in your innermost world and you're not advocating for those things, then there's a deeper issue at hand. And so when we go to strategies for, the question now then is like, okay, cool, we've spoken about all of these things, but how do we now actually cultivate intimacy? How do we start? Like, where do we start? And this is where I would start. I love the idea of co-regulation, but prioritizing quality time together. It's not about that quantity. It's like, cool, okay, where and when can I be present? I'm not saying, shit, please don't schedule that shit in. It's just like in the moments when you can be present. Because people,
Micro connections.
micro connection and
Yes.
being very present in those things. It's like, okay, a hand on your partner's back, checking in. Okay, how are you feeling about this? Where are you? Like just it's the like all these small things add up. It's not asking for 3 hours. It's like 5 minutes in the hour, or like it's small things.
It's the same thing as you just leaving the cup on the table all the time.
Yeah.
It adds up. The same is true for the inverse.
There's such an importance of just carving out and dedicating that time for meaningful conversation and shared experiences, and to see where that person is, how they're feeling about this, and if they're navigating something within themselves, how are they feeling about navigating through that. And it's just, yeah. Are you actually interested in your partner's life? There's also another question. And if you're not, then there's a bigger issue at hand there as well. So the second thing is practicing active listening and empathy. Not from a performative space, because I think we don't all know how to communicate and listen effectively.
And if you're trying that, start off with just that practice I mentioned earlier of where are you on a scale of 10 to 100?
Yeah.
Because it'll just open up a dialogue. And maybe it'll say like, well, emotionally or mentally and emotionally, where are you on a scale of 10 to 100? Are you like, if you're above 50 or 60 or 70?
And what would it take for you to get to 100?
Yes.
Do you need a nap? Do you need a cup of tea? Like, it's just, what do you need?
And then you give them opportunity to advocate, and you're like, oh, this is what they needed. So they feel like they are able to share, you're listening, and then it's going to be given back to you as well, because you have the opportunity to share.
If you hear snoring and heavy breathing in the background, an 8-year-old just decided to get up from bed and come lie on the couch and sleep, yeah. So, yeah, I think that really hearing and understanding your partner's thoughts and feelings is a vital part of bringing in this connection. And also, I don't know if everyone thinks this way, but for me, when I think about the whole action of this motion, of the motion of this ocean, it's more the feeling behind it. And you can feel when someone genuinely wants to do it, or when they're just doing it for the sake of doing it. And there is nothing more irritating to me than someone just doing it because, fuck, it's like, I just need to. I'm just, yeah. It's like, how can I put? There's literally, there was a note on your calendar about like, call a reminder of like, okay, it's time for me to point to Karis. And I'm like, huh? How does this work? And then I would feel, it felt so performative when you were doing it. That's why when we had the discussion of fuck the calendar, let it go. Calendar isn't a life. You're not an Excel sheet. You're not a habit tracker. Things are going to shift on a daily basis. But yeah, so it's just the genuine want to connect, the genuine intention to connect. I promise you, your partner feels that. So really do it from that space. And then embracing vulnerability, I think, would be the third step. Just to...
That's not going to be an easy one.
Right? Encouraging that open and honest communication, but also allowing that partner to express their fears, their desires, their insecurities, but without the judgment and the criticism. Leave the lecture in the other room,
Just listen.
Just listen.
Shut up and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want feedback, give them the option. Like, you can vocalize it and say, do you just want me to listen, or do you want constructive advice?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're looking for within this? I just want you to listen. 100%. Cool.
The last step, I think, which is important for creating intimacy I think is to disconnect to reconnect, highlighting the importance of just being able to unplug, to fully engage with each other is really going to deepen that connection. Like, even if you at a certain time, like after like work time is done, everybody's phones go into a box, or there's no more technology. You guys can play board games, you can do these things, or you can listen to music. But I think just having that sense of discipline with that, because you're also going to rest easier with those things. But, as we conclude today's episode, I think just a reminder is that, intimacy is an ongoing journey. We're still figuring things out. The context of your life is always changing, and it requires effort and patience and commitment from both people.
So wherever you're on your journey, thank you so much for listening. I hope that there was something within this that rung true for you and that resonated, and maybe just a practice that you can take away and apply for yourself and for your relationship.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to The Journey of Now for more insightful discussions on relationships and self-development and just the nature of what well-being is. And don't forget to leave a review and share your thoughts with us. And until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the depths of your own journey.